Your brain is just this universe of electrical storms. Billions of neurons are firing off signals in these tiny, tiny fractions of a second. But how does all that microscopic chaos become a coherent thought or a memory, or even a simple decision? Well, it turns out your brain isn't chaotic at all. It's an orchestra. So let's pull back the curtain and see how your brain conducts the symphony of, well, you.
Okay, so first things first, we have to grapple with the central mystery of neuroscience, which is this massive, almost unbelievable gap in time. Seriously, it's a problem that sits at the very heart of how we experience the world. I mean, really think about it for a second. The actual physical stuff happening in your brain, those little sparks between neurons, they happen in milliseconds, blink of an eye stuff. But your memories, your thoughts, your experiences, they unfold over seconds, minutes, sometimes an entire lifetime. So how on earth does the brain bridge that enormous gap?
And this right here visualizes that core challenge perfectly. On one side, you've got the raw physics of the brain, synapses firing in thousandths of a second. On the other side, you have our actual lived experience, like hearing a song and having a memory pop up, which takes seconds. It's a mismatch of epic proportions.
To solve this, scientists basically had to become code breakers. They had to crack the brain's secret language. And what they discovered is that it's not just about how loud the neurons are shouting, but when they shout. The timing? Well, the timing is everything.
For a long, long time, the leading theory was what's called the rate code. The idea was that neurons just fire faster to send a stronger signal. You can think of it like just shouting louder to get your point across. But the newer, much more powerful idea is the temporal code. And this is less like shouting and way more like Morse code, where the precise timing and the pattern of the signals, that's what carries the real information.
And that's why this is such a game changer. By using this precise timing, the brain can pack an incredible amount of rich, detailed information into its signals, way more than just turning the volume up or down. This is where all the complexity and the nuance of our thoughts really come from.
In fact, the brain uses several different kinds of this Morse code for different jobs. For instance, you've got first spike latency, which is all about speed. Think about recognizing a face in a crowd in just a split second. Then there's something like phase of firing, which is more about order, like remembering the sequence of events in a story you just heard. Each one of these codes uses timing in a really unique way to build our experience of the world.
So, if all these neurons are using these incredibly complex timed codes, how do they all stay in sync? I mean, how do different parts of the brain, all working on different tasks, coordinate with each other? Well, they use a conductor. And in the brain, that conductor is a mechanism called cross-frequency coupling.
Cross-frequency coupling, or CFC for short, is the conductor's magic wand. It's how the brain gets, say, the string section and the woodwinds to play in perfect harmony. What happens is that large, slow brain waves act like the conductor's tempo, setting the beat for the whole orchestra. Meanwhile, the small, fast-working local circuits, they're the individual musicians, playing their notes at precisely the right moment.
Let's break down how this actually works. First, a big, slow wave sets a beat, like a drum. This rhythm creates these specific moments, or windows, where the local neurons are basically given permission to fire. The fast waves, which are the ones carrying the actual data, can only communicate inside these approved windows. It's a totally brilliant system for managing all that neural traffic and making sure messages arrive at exactly the right time.
So the really key thing to get here is that the slow rhythm, it doesn't carry the detailed information itself. Nope, it's simply the conductor's baton. It's telling all the fast, local circuits, the violins, the cellos, the percussion, when to play their part. And that is how you get a coordinated symphony from billions of individual musicians.
All this amazing coordination is what allows the brain to create different states or operating modes, basically setting the stage for different kinds of thinking. And it's mostly about balancing two fundamental needs: stability and flexibility.
First up, for stability, the brain uses what are called attractor dynamics. This is when a whole network of neurons just locks into a persistent, stable pattern of firing. You can think of it as the brain's way of holding a thought or a piece of information steady in your working memory, kind of like keeping a file open on your computer desktop.
But, of course, you also need flexibility. And that's where communication through coherence comes in. In this mode, different brain areas temporarily sync up their rhythms to open a direct line of communication. It lets them collaborate on a task. And then, when the task is done, poof, the channel closes. It's a lot like setting up a temporary conference call between different departments to get a project done. So you can see this fundamental trade-off, this push and pull, right? Attractor states give you the stability you need to hold on to a single idea and focus. But communication through coherence gives you the mental agility to connect different ideas, like binding the sight and sound of a car into one perception, and just totally reconfiguring your brain's network on the fly.
But what happens when this beautiful, intricate orchestra falls out of tune? The consequences aren't just theoretical, they are devastatingly real, and they give us the clearest proof of just how important these rhythms truly are.
You know, understanding this symphony isn't just some fascinating scientific puzzle. The health of these rhythmic interactions is a direct, measurable indicator of our own cognitive health and well-being. When the music stops, so does proper function.
Just take a look at this stark example. This chart shows the strength of that theta-gamma coupling, that key conductor-orchestra relationship in different people. In healthy individuals, you can see it's high. In those with mild cognitive impairment, it's lower. And then, in patients with Alzheimer's disease, it's significantly degraded.
And here's the absolute kicker. The breakdown of this specific rhythmic coupling isn't just a symptom. It turns out to be one of the most powerful predictors of memory loss. This shows us that this mechanism is fundamental. The brain absolutely needs this coordination to form and retrieve memories. Period.
So this brings us right back to the full picture. We've seen the musicians, the neurons with their fancy temporal codes. We've seen the conductor, that's cross-frequency coupling. And we've seen the different styles of music the brain can play, its dynamic states. So now, let's put it all together.
There's this one key insight from the research that just nails the entire idea. It suggests there are two levels to this neural music. Simple synchronization is for binding things together. But the really advanced, complex, cross-frequency music, that's for something much, much more profound: abstraction.
So what does that actually mean? Well, a simple rhythm might help your brain link the color red and the shape sphere, so you perceive a red ball. That's called binding. But a complex, multi-layered rhythm, the kind that uses cross-frequency coupling, can take a whole series of individual moments, seeing the street, turning the corner, arriving at the door, and transform that entire sequence into the abstract concept of a journey. That is the leap to higher order thought. And this is the idea I really want to leave you with. Your consciousness, your memories, your very sense of who you are, it's all composed by this neural orchestra. So if your thoughts are a symphony, written and performed in real time by these complex rhythms, what happens to you when the music changes?